Greetings to all of you fine people of the internet. Astrolabians, one and all, let us unite. Trying to take one moment of rest, and our president says, wake up! It's time to keep winning. It's exactly how I've been feeling lately. It doesn't seem like there's any sign that anything's going to be slowing down anytime soon. Heard the one leak that they had 2 weeks of these planned, of all these executive orders. And I wanted to go live a couple hours ago, but I've been sitting here just trying to pull all this stuff together, and I ultimately had to whittle out like 5 stories that I was planning on getting into. I'm going to have to push them off to tomorrow. There's the RFK hearings. There's so many great clips that have come out of that. There's this thing about the federal funding, the memo from OPM directing all this funding to freeze pursuant to Trump's executive order, and then there's an announcement this morning that the administration had rescinded that OPM memo after the judge had after the judge had issued an injunction on it, and now there's another federal judge gotten into it. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with that. I want to make sure. Normally, it would be something I would talk about because of it. It's a pretty significant news event, but it's not entirely clear how everything's going to pan out with it. So I pushed that one off to the future to get more info on. I've also got a whole segment on Palantir and an article from the CTO of Palantir that's very good, and a statement, a clip of him talking at the Senate Armed Forces Committee. I'm going to have to hold off on that one as well, because as it is, this is going to be a long one, and I had to get a little judicious about which clips I wanted to include today and which ones I'll get into in the future. I'm also planning an episode talking more about AI. That one is going to be coming. I wanted to do it this week. We'll see if it'll actually get in the next couple of days, or if I have to push it off to the future. But I will say, go listen to Jason Miranchuk and an Emergent Perspective talking about AI, particularly the idea of AI Congress. I haven't listened to it yet, but I've talked to both of those guys, obviously, and very much respect what they have to say. And I've had a lot of conversation with Jason off the record. So I'll recommend you guys go over to Miranchuk now and watch that if you want to. If you're very interested on the idea of AI and AI government. Those guys are talking about that subject in particular. So until I can get around to it, that's the direction I'm going to point you. Hold on, I just got a reply to my wife. Let me just say, where are you going? She is getting dinner out with the little man, and I'm going to place an order. All right. Welcome, everyone. We've got 67 in here and 20 likes, so please do hit the like button on your way and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You guys have been very generous with all of the super chats this month. We are close to breaking the all-time record for YouTube channel revenue for the King Pilled channel. So it looks like we're probably, unless you guys get real stingy over the next couple of days, then it looks like we're actually going to set a new record. The channel is growing. More people are tuning in, and welcome to all of you. I appreciate the way you guys support. There's a number of ways you can do that. You can send a super chat here. You can become a channel member for $5 a month, which you have to do from a mobile phone. The best thing you could do to support would be go join the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com. And that's not just a way of supporting the show. That's you get a lot out of that. If you enjoy the live chat, if you enjoy the vibe in here, well, probably half the people who are in the live chat are also in the King Pill Discord. So if you want that conversation to continue, that's the place to go. We'll be doing a schizo stream this Friday night. Listening to, I'd imagine what we'll wind up doing is listening to the last couple episodes of Tucker Carlson's series, All the President's Men, talking about revisiting the whole Russiagate era and all the lawfare and how the FBI set up their entrapment schemes, and it's been very interesting so far, and it's been kind of surreal to go back and listen to that and see the way that the press was. All these people who nobody pays attention to or takes seriously anymore, they were so serious. There was so much stuff going on back then, and they were so incredibly self-important and managed to do a tremendous amount of damage. And it's a fascinating little time capsule that was, this was what, 5 to 10 years ago in that window, and it might as well be like the 80s. It just feels so far removed from where we are today. So yeah, kingpill.com is the place to go if you want to join the Kingpill Discord. And then there's also a Cash App link in the description and buymeacoffee.com. I'm trying to give you guys as many different ways as you can to support. And in fact, actually, you can even go to Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you can go follow me. I just cracked 11,000 followers. It's very true that once you hit a certain threshold, then stuff just kind of the platform just starts carrying you along. I never would have imagined that I'd have 11,000 people following me. So if you follow me on Twitter, there is a tip function, and I wish Elon would signal boost this a little bit more. Maybe they're waiting for more of the X video stuff to roll out before they really start leaning into the tipping function. But there is a thing there, and they have Bitcoin integration in there. So if you would like to send some Bitcoin toward your boy, then that'd be the place to go. Just look for the tip function on the upper right-hand side on Twitter, @RealKingPilled. We got a super chat already from Minoan. 20 cold, hard US dollars. Thank you, my friend. He says, thanks for all the vibes and the catch-up on all the news. So much news every day. You're very welcome. Thank you. I'm basically doing this full-time along with some projects we're working on in the background. And so the extent to which you guys can keep supporting what I'm doing here determines the extent to which I will keep doing it. Minoan says, how much of a cut does Twitter take? That's a good question. I actually don't know. I think it's nominal. I want to say it's like 5% maybe. Some nominal amount. I just got monetized recently and was able to do I think the Bitcoin, I had someone, anytime somebody has sent Bitcoin with it, it has been whatever amount they've sent. So if they sent $5, I've gotten $5 worth of Bitcoin. So I don't know if they're, with the tip function, I don't even know if they're taking a cut from it. It has Venmo and Bitcoin. So I don't think that they're taking a cut through that. For the monetization side, for like ad revenue, I want to say it's somewhere around 5%. I just have barely cracked that, and it's, I think last 2-week period was like $20. The one before that it was like $70. The first check that came in was kind of nice. As soon as I broke the monetization threshold, which was the holdback for me was verified followers. I had to get 2,000 verified followers, and once I did, then they paid me all the back revenue, which was like $600. So one $600 check, which was nice, and then it's been anywhere from $20 to $70 each 2-week period since then. Yes, JTube is 30%. They take a full 30%. So I'd like to get away from them. For now, it's probably the easiest thing. But the more people use the other platforms, the more I'll get away from YouTube. Bryce says, Matt told a boomer church member about your idea of the endowments to pay off student loans, and it blew his mind. Oh, well, very, very nice. He says he was also very much an anti-payoff student loans. Interesting. So we've got the boomer perspective here. So the boomer perspective is like, no, the kids got to pay their student loans. But then once you, if I'm understanding correctly, once you said, hey, what if we seize the endowments of the universities and use that to pay off some of the loans? It was actually favorable to him. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding, but if that's the case, well, we now have a sample size of 1 that we can get the boomers on board with something like this. Okay, let me see if there's any other comments. Slutty Milk's Trump's is terminal. His Trump-related ultramassive penis syndrome. You and me both, my friend. You and me both. FB Informant says AI Congress. Yeah, you laugh, but go listen to them. Go listen to them. And Jason and I will be doing a conversation about this in the near future as well. AI Congress is not as far away as you think. And the mother-in-law, my beautiful, sweet mother-in-law, Rhonda Bolin. She says, congratulations on 11,000 followers. Your show is so interesting and fascinating. I have a sample size of 1 boomer that listens on a regular basis, and that is my sweet mother-in-law. Thank you, Gaga. All right, let's get rocking and rolling here. I'm going to go ahead and get the stream demonetized here right out of the gate. And this may possibly, one of the reasons I'm putting this early in the show is this may possibly get the video blocked globally as soon as the stream ends. Anytime I've done a Norm Macdonald clip, for whatever reason, it's gotten blocked. So if you're here live, this is one of the reasons why you want to be here live, because that's when you really get the good stuff. But if you're listening to this after the fact, then if there's just some weird blip right here, it's because the clip got blocked and I had to clip it out. But here you guys go.
God damn, I wish I had a time machine
to see that action.
Yeah, no, to take back my question.
Thought you were going to say to murder Hitler.
I would not. You know, people always fucking want to murder Hitler with their time machine, right? But then I feel if I got back there, I'd be afraid of falling under the spell of his fucking beautiful eyes.
It's true. You want to be locked in the gaze.
Yeah, and then I join the fucking party.
That's
knowing
his
me.
thing. He gives you his full attention. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe I start to see this guy.
God, I miss the man. I was unfortunate enough to not really get into Norm until just before he died, and then he died, and I got even more into him, and what a loss! What a loss! Samoa Bob says it was always so obvious when Norm didn't take another comedian seriously, and he was just the absolute master of subversive comedy. He, like this sort of thing, he knows exactly what he's doing. And nobody but Norm could pull it off the way he did. Now, you may have felt like I gave you a little tease. Just a wee little tease. And as we always say, the clip ended too soon. You're just starting to get going, feeling the beat. And then it ended. Well, what if I told you that it doesn't have to end? What a banger! Meet Scott here says that this has been his favorite techno song for 20 years. A man ahead of his time. Who would have known? He had demonetized. Yes, right. Totally worth it, though. Speaking of monetized, there was another super chat in here from Gaga. $2 super chats. He says 11,000 followers. That's right. Thank you, Gaga. She's been there from the beginning. Okay, you guys may know who Father Calvin Robinson is. A based priest. What is he here? A UKIP lead spokesman. He's been making the rounds lately. And he dropped this earlier. I think this was earlier today. Or no, this is yesterday.
This I see as the last stand for the West. This is the last stand for Christendom. It's make or break time. The whole of the old world is crumbling. Every country in Europe is embracing death. America, as far as I could see, is the only country fighting for life. And that's down to you guys. So God bless all of you for what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I hope that I can encourage you. And my heart goes out to you. God bless.
Look at my African American. Yes, he's Anglican. Yes, he's British, but he's our African American. And then this one here actually caught me by surprise. I had low expectations for it. Just kind of the whole combination of the emojis and everything. I was like, all right, this is going to be some I don't know. This is going to be some bad slop, but it actually turned out pretty good.
I don't think he did it. But you know what? Even if he did do it, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. And this one here, this is next level. I've seen some We Was Kang stuff, but I got to give it to them. They are stepping up their game big time.
Like you go into the African drum language, which just white boys stole it and called it the Morse code. Mm-hmm. They took that same pulsation and rhythm, and now they call it the telephone. Mm-hmm. They took the same pulsation and rhythm, and now they call it a computer, which is nothing but an African drum. Mm-hmm. But if you don't attach people to the computer, you don't see it. Mm-hmm. So
we was drumming up the internet with the niggabytes and shit. How do you possibly come up with that? This is a level of creativity that is astounding to me. Drums equals Morse code equals telephone equals internet. Therefore, African tribesmen built the internet. Didn't you know? They just invented everything. Did they invent ceiling chirps too? Well, you know, those ceiling chirps happen at regular intervals. So you could almost think of that ceiling chirp as like a really drawn out a drum. It's just playing at regular intervals. It just happens to be, you know, it's probably, our problem is probably that we don't relate to time right or something like that. They have this dilated time that, you know, the each drum beat happens every, 28 seconds or whatever it is from our perspective. And so they're just vibing the whole time. That's what it is. That's what it is. They're sitting there listening to their tribal drum beat. It just is coming in the form of a really protracted, random chirp from the ceiling. Stick hitting a log noise. The big head scientist Yakub gave these white monkey demons our secret drum beat. Isn't it amazing how, Melon here says, weird how there were no black people on the internet in the 90s or early 2000s. Isn't it crazy how every single one of their inventions got, they invented all of these things, but then they didn't use them. They just invented them and everybody else used them. All right. Trump autism. So remember when we were just listening to this, the whole Russiagate thing. We were listening to this on the Tucker Carlson documentary in the Schizo stream last week, and I think it was the episode of Michael Flynn, and Michael Flynn was talking about how Trump is a noted germaphobe, and this is when the whole story came out about how he had like Russian prostitutes pissing on him or something like that. It was just preposterous. This guy who is a longtime noted extreme germaphobe would have prostitutes peeing on him. Was just nobody would have ever believed it. It wasn't even believable on its face. Well, here's him, you know, talking to a familiar face here. describing his autism.
We have to talk about this, the can't shake hand thing.
Ah, good.
Because, okay, you know, I have this thing, just started a week ago, the hands and the germs, and I know you have it too, right?
I think it's a terrible, terrible custom in this country. And oftentimes I'll be sitting at a table having a roll, and some guy comes up, and he's a nice guy. He says, "Oh, Mr. Trump, I really like you. I really respect you. Could I just shake your hand?" And, you know, you're eating a roll. And he just came out of the men's room, and you're saying, why do I have to be doing this? The only good thing is you tend to lose weight. You don't eat as much because you put the roll down, and that's the end of the roll for the night. And frankly, it's the end of the whole evening as far as I'm concerned.
Really? Do you have to run in and wash your hands
Well,
in the
I
bathroom?
prefer to.
Is it like a germ thing?
It's a germ. I'm a germ freak. There's no question.
In your house, are you like?
I am, even in my, I wash my hands as many times as possible. I'm very clean. I like to take showers. You know, I'm into staying nice and clean.
He's into staying nice and clean. What's interesting is knowing this, it should give a little extra significance to all the time that he'll spend going out and pressing the flesh with the common man, going down and getting in amongst them and hugging them and shaking their hands and being close to them. You know that all of his germaphobe radar is going crazy, but he's suppressing it. Okay. Speaking of Trump going down in amongst the common man, we got an update from Western North Carolina from our boy Jay Ford, who's been down there with the OGC boys. He says, while this new admin is spinning up capabilities, we're still running heat sources out to people and trying to give them a little comfort in this cold weather. Winter is not over, and these people have cold nights ahead. We've gotten people into hot tents, campers, temporary lodging, and tiny homes, but not everything is perfect, and we've had to give out wood stoves, propane heaters, diesel heaters, and generators to folks. A friend of mine is working on a personal campaign to get heated blankets out to people who need them. About 50 have been bought, 450 to go. They need 450 heated blankets. If you'd like to help, here's the link. So I'm going to drop the link to this tweet in the YouTube chat. Buy blankets for Helene victims. I'm going to drop this in the chat here, and I'm going to pin it. And then it will also be in the on the King Pilled Substack for this episode. Go to King Pilled Substack, kingpilled.substack.com, or just King Pilled on Substack, and look at this. Click on the 129 episode, and go down. Click this link. Go donate to help support these boys. He says, I'm incredibly excited about what this new admin is going to do. I've seen C-130s in the regional airport, dump trucks, and some people in military uniform. Eastern Tennessee isn't fixed yet, though. I would call on all my brothers from the old Glory Club in the region to make plans with each other on what we can do in that state. Reach out to me or the local OGC chapter. United Cajun Navy has been remarkable in their influence and help out here even now. We made the right call backing them. Just doing things is the motto. Trust not in princes or governors or the sons of men to do the work. In them there is no salvation. Go out and conquer. So shout out to our boy, Jay Ford, and the work that he and the other guys are doing out there in Western North Carolina. Mellon, with an update, says Ford is riding around in a fire truck right now with the United Cajun Navy guys because there's a wildfire near Black Mountain right now as well. Oh, great. So they're going to be dealing with a wildfire. They need help. Go hit them up. This is an Amazon list. Go help them buy these heated blankets. And then you can also DM Ford on Twitter there, and if you want to help in any other sort of way. But I want to keep amplifying what these guys are doing, because I can't go over and help them right now, and I don't have any money to send them, but I do have the platform, so I want to use the platform to promote them as much as possible. Okay, let me check on the comments here. And Mr. Oblivion says, if you stretch Ceiling Bird chirps out long enough, you get the Fibonacci sequence. And Taylor Brown says, we're doing a lot of plan, trust, and tugging in here. Yes. Plan, trust, and tugging. All right, let's get a clip here of Tom Homan getting a dump on Joy Reid. You're going to have to listen to a little Joy Reid. I apologize, but it's worthwhile. There's a payoff.
Listen to this. New York City joined the list of cities where these performative raids are taking place.
Performative.
We have a government right now that is reckless. Reckless and also, I mean, as I've said, performative. I mean, I want to show you an image of Kristi Noem, who was just confirmed, the former governor who was confirmed as a department.
I need the OGC Pony Express radio. I need the beep. I need to be able to do the ceiling chirp in the middle of this.
For Homeland Security. I mean, it's as she's cosplaying. It's almost a game where she seems to be cosplaying, because I'm not sure what she thinks that she's portraying here. She might as well be at Comic-Con.
James and Joy say you're reckless and you're just role-playing for fun.
She's dumber than a box of rocks. Bottom line is, let's talk about Chicago for a minute. Chicago mayor says that we put fear in the elementary schools because ICE agents went to elementary school. Total false story. What ICE did in Chicago is save children. What we did in New York today is save children. Just Chicago alone, we arrested like 9 sexual predators, most of them child sex predators. We took them off the street. We took them off the street in New York today. We're protecting the community. We're saving children. We're going to secure that border so less Americans die of fentanyl deaths. We're securing the border so less women and children are sex trafficked. Biden administration had a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We're securing the border so less terrorists and people on the terrorist watch lists get into the country. Biden, under Biden, we had a 3,500% increase in people on terrorist watch lists. No, we're saving this nation. We're making America safe again. So they need to get out of the way because we're coming. We're going to do it. They're not going to stop us.
The Skull Crusher, the loyal Skull Crusher, is angry. He's mad. She's dumber than a box of rocks. Hulk Hogan is coming for you. You can tell this stuff is meaningful to him, too. He's like legitimately offended. He's like, no, we're helping children. Imagine being one of these poor children. The door opens, and there is Tom Homan standing there, ready to scoop you up and carry you to safety. Alex Emmons says Kristi Noem does look ridiculous. Tom Homan is a specimen, but Noem is taking a photo op. But you know what? I'll allow it. Because you know what? There's a whole bunch of dudes out there that saw a picture of Kristi Noem standing there kitted out, and it moved. It moved. And mass deportations just got a little bit more popular. They're already very popular, but they just got a little bit more popular. I think Kristi Noem's job is to be, literally, her job is to be a hot milfy face at DHS and do press conferences and run cover for Tom Homan to run wild. That's her job. It seems very clear. This is just political patronage. You've been loyal. We're going to pay you off with a position where you get to maximize your best assets and minimize your worst. Because maybe they're just going to... I wouldn't be surprised if they just wind up dissolving DHS, or like they do the mass deportations thing. They do a big push and then they absorb it into, I don't know, the Department of Defense or something like that. And having a just a pretty face that can be easily moved along, and she gets her stamp for this period of her career. It's just fine by me. Yeah, make deportation sexy. Taylor says regarding Homan, pretty sure he said he doesn't have kids of his own. A while back, he spoke about how important protecting kids was to him. Oh yes, thank you. My wife reminded me that I need to get in my my food order. So let me check this real quick. Let's say the chicken strips, Coke, and fries. She's going to Chick-fil-A. All right. Yeah, she's the pretty face to distract from Tom Homan's Viking warlord face. $5 super chat from See You in the Camp. He says, remember exactly a week ago when you had absolutely no concept of a deportation video? Me too. Just imagine where we could be by June. No kidding. No kidding. And it turns out it seemed so improbable you could get something like this. And yet all it took was somebody just doing it. And there's nobody of substance who's going to stand in the way of it. They're just going to keep escalating. And it's popular. Everyone likes it. And even the people who may not have liked the idea of it, once they start experiencing the consequences of it, they're going to be like, okay, actually, yeah, this is fine. This is great. And there's probably a lot of people who are like, mass deportations, that's awful. Right, guys? Right? Everyone around me, you all think that's awful, don't you? And then when suddenly it's like, oh, wait, no, there isn't lots of people who think this is awful. Actually, everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that's good. I'm glad this is happening. Then they're like, yeah, me too. I'm glad it's happening. This is the overwhelming majority of people. So here you go. San Diego resident shows a doctor's office that's always full is now empty, that everyone is hiding from ICE raids and Border Patrol. Says proof illegals have been overwhelming our healthcare system. This is why getting a primary care or really any appointment is always backed up months in California. We've seen the reports of this presented in Congress, but here's actual real-life proof.
En esta casa no existen fantasmas, son puro recuerdo de tiempo.
And she's sad about it. The lines are shorter. Oh, I'm so sad. Some of these people are just going to be a lost cause forever, and they're just going to get dragged along because they don't matter. All right, I've got a couple of clips here from Stephen Miller. I don't think there's anyone in the world right now who's having more fun than Stephen Miller. He is absolutely living his best life. He could not be happier. And I hope that they make this a regular segment of him showing up on CNN and just dragging his nuts across fake Tapper's forehead.
Last question, Stephen, and this has to do with the move by President Trump on
Your left ear is going to love this clip.
Friday to fire a number of inspectors general in various departments. This afternoon, Senators Chuck Grassley, a Republican from Iowa, and Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, the chair and ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, sent a letter to President Trump, and they're asking for an explanation why he fired these inspectors general from 18 offices without giving Congress the legally required 30-day notice. These two senators, one of whom is a big ally of yours, says, quote, while IGs aren't immune from committing acts requiring their removal, and they can be removed by the president, the law must be followed, unquote. So why didn't President Trump, according to these senators, follow the law and give Congress the required notice?
Well, I mean, simply, first of all, we love Chuck Grassley. The president loves Chuck Grassley. I love Chuck Grassley. As far as I know, everyone in America loves Chuck Grassley.
I love Chuck Grassley, if for no other reason than because he tweets like my grandma texts. I don't understand why. It seems to be a very clear indicator that Chuck Grassley himself is actually tweeting from his account. Although it would be really funny if he has an intern that's tweeting from his account and just tweeting like him. But like this right here. Here's an example. Sen Ernst, Rep. Feenstra, and I are proud leaders of Sarah's Law, which today becomes law. It's named for Iowan Sarah Root, who was killed by an illegal immigrant. Happening now. Lake and Riley Act about to be signed by Pres Trump at White House. Sarah's Law is in Lake and Riley Act. Like, I'm pretty sure that he just sat here, got this picture, popped it on his phone, and typed it out exactly the way that I will always associate the boomers texting. Like, this is exactly how they text. And I love Chuck Grassley for no reason other than just that. All right, back to the video.
So we fully embrace that relationship and are a close partner of his. But the president's authority to fire any federal worker is plenary. There's no lawful constraints that can be placed on the president to terminate a worker in the federal government who exercises discretionary policy. That's the basis of Article 2 and the Constitution and the idea of a single executive. When you have anyone in the federal government who exercises decision-making authority who can't be fired, then that person is a king, and then we don't have a democracy
The law says 30 days, Stephen. The law.
Look at the little rhetorical judo that he's doing here. He's saying, no, look at this. You're the ones who are advocating for the monarchy. You're the ones saying that there should be completely unaccountable executives or bureaucrats who are free to execute as they please with no accountability and nobody can fire them. You guys are the ones who want the dictatorial tyrants. We're the promoters of democracy. And it is in the name of democracy that the president must be allowed to exercise his justly delegated Article 2 powers. the plenary power to fire any member of the executive branch at will. This is our boy here. We have a favorite small hat, and it is Stephen Miller. We get to have one for a treat. He is channeling Mr. Yarvin.
I'm telling you what the Constitution says with respect to the president's authority.
So
that person is a.
So this is regarding these inspectors general that they just fired, and there's a law supposedly that says that he has to give a 30-day notice to Congress before he can fire these people, and he's saying, no, I don't. I can fire them anytime I want for any reason, and they're immediately fired. Congress doesn't have any role in this. We'll get more on this whole subject. I'm going to be reading Yarvin's latest. Yarvin issued a mea culpa in his very Yarvin-esque way, and I'll be reading his most recent one here at the end, where he addresses this in part. So that's the dispute that's happening, and Miller has no time for it.
Government who exercises decision-making authority who can't be fired, then that person is a king, and then we don't have a democracy
The law says
anymore.
30 days, Stephen. The law says you have to give Congress 30 days.
And I'm telling you what the Constitution says with respect to the president's authority.
So you think the law is
to control-
unconstitutional?
Absolutely it is. I don't even think it is. I know it is.
All right. Stephen Miller, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Last question.
I love his frickin' smile right at the end. Look at that. And back here you have Jake Tapper just looking so troubled. This dude, he's realized now that his entire career has been reduced to this. He has to sit here and just get abused by this insolent Jew who is going to tell him straight to his face, you're wrong. Deal with it. There's nothing you can do about it. Your job here is to give me an audience so I can humiliate you. And here's another one. This is a longer video. I'm just gonna let this whole video play because he sits here. He kind of holds court with some journos. Indian Bronson says, "Look at how at ease Miller is. Doesn't even bother with a jacket. Blood pumping. This is like that video of the orphaned baby beaver, which never even saw its parents at a dam, instinctively building one. He was made to do this." We'll speed this one up just a wee bit and listen to our boy.
Before we get started, I'm only gonna do 5 minutes because we had a whole press briefing with Carolina.
Can you just give us how long is this temporary pause on federal funding? How long is this pause going to last?
But the terms of the executive order is 90 days. But it's important to understand that it's a review process to say that there's for discretionary spending that's not directed by Congress or required by law. So this would be, for example, something like a contract to a non-governmental organization to teach, say, critical race theory. That there has to be a politically appointed individual in the departments or agencies who simply reviews and approves the expenditure, so that we have control, democratic control over the operations of government. This doesn't affect any federal programs that Americans rely on, full stop.
It's not going to have any impact on any Americans and what they rely on?
In any program, like a benefit program that Americans rely on.
Like Meals on Wheels?
Correct. There's no, the OMB guidance document, which I think you're referring to, because the executive order was issued a week ago, it just gives clarity on how to implement the original executive order, which doesn't cover.
So there's a point he makes there, and this addresses the thing I mentioned that I'm not going to go into the details of it yet because I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. But Trump issued this executive order to freeze the funding, and then OPM issued a guidance memo. OMB issued a guidance memo saying here's how to enforce that executive order. The federal judge issued an injunction against that guidance memo specifically to saying, you have to freeze everything you have to freeze your freezing until this has been assessed. And then that memo was withdrawn today. And then Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, came out and said only the memo was withdrawn. The freeze was not withdrawn. And so now everyone's all in chaos. And my position on it, without going way into all the details, but my position on it is chaos works in the administration's favor here. They can wait this out and they can play this game for as long as possible because to whatever extent any of these funds are being held up, it's grievously damaging the regime.
any entitlement or public benefit spending at all. And that's clear, by the way, if you read, as I'm sure you have, the OMB guidance document.
About El Salvador. So we know that the president spoke to President Bukele next week. Secretary Rubio will be in El Salvador. Should we be expecting El Salvador to take the Tren de Aragua Venezuelans as an agreement between the two countries?
All I can say on this, because I don't want to get ahead of Senator Rubio, is that the President Bukele has graciously offered tremendous degrees of cooperation with the United States on all things migration, and we're hoping that will provide a framework for migration cooperation all throughout the region. And I think it's very clear that President Bukele is going to be a very great and strong partner for this administration and for the United States.
And how that means getting Venezuelans into El Salvador? Because, I mean, right now we don't have relationships with Venezuela.
Well, it is our full expectation that Maduro will accept all flights of TDA gang members back to Venezuela. Yes.
Is the Trump immigration method applicable to Europe? Europe has a huge immigration problem. Is that method of deportation, repatriation applicable to the continent of Europe?
If I understand your question correctly, you're asking, should Europe consider mirroring our own policies?
He understood it perfectly correctly. But he wanted to frame it in such a way to put a lot finer of a point on it. So she's like, well, is it applicable to us? And if he says, yeah, I think it's applicable. Yeah, I think that would be, I think Europe should do something like that. That's different from saying, hold on a second. If I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying, should Europe mirror what we are doing? Yes, Europe should mirror what we are doing.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
How?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's simple. I mean, you have to establish a policy that says that anyone who crosses the border is going to be immediately repatriated, that anyone in the country illegally is subject to removal, of course, prioritizing public safety and national security, as well as we've done, is a general matter, suspending refugee resettlement, which of course poses enormous burdens on local communities and populations. Any other questions?
Just on the tariff administration is with countries from South America, as Brazil, for example, in this deportation flight.
Oh, deeply engaged. So, look, it's the president's expectation that countries all across the world participate fully in the enforcement of immigration laws, and in particular in the repatriation of their own citizens. This is a basic international obligation the United States abides by, all developed nations abide by, and we expect all of the partner nations all throughout the region to abide by as well. And we've had incredibly productive conversations with, frankly, nations all across Latin America, led by Secretary of State Rubio, who, if I may say, has done an absolutely fabulous job.
How do you know that?
Just want to give a shout out here to Tom Luongo and Pete Quinones for calling this from the jump that Rubio is Secretary of State precisely because of this focus on Latin America.
Maduro will take TDA members
that are supposed to take effect on, or to be announced on February 1st. Can you just walk us through how you expect that to happen? The president has talked about 25% on Mexico.
I don't want to get ahead of the president. I will let him speak for himself on any tariff announcements. The bottom line is that the United States is going to have a trade policy that brings our manufacturing jobs back and that doesn't allow any other countries to exploit us.
Do you tell us about Canada, please?
Can you give us a...
Just to be clear, because I don't want to step on Caroline's briefing, so I'll do 3 more questions of this being the first of those 3.
Do you expect those tariffs?
Hold on,
Do you expect the tariffs to take effect immediately?
I want to defer to Andrea just to finish.
Well, no, I don't have anything else to add to that subject, so I just want to go here.
All right, my question is on numbers. Can you give us a sense, an exact figure of how many people have been brought up in the United States so far, and how many you're expecting to do?
Well, ICE has published the daily numbers. I just did an interview with Jake Tapper, and he talked about the new targets that have been set, which is really a floor. I mean, to put this in perspective, I think in Biden's worst month in office, there was almost 350,000 apprehensions at the southwest border. So it gives you a sense of the scale of work that we have to do here. So we're going to continue to set ever more ambitious targets. But again, we're going to really focus in on public safety threats, understanding that you can't have a situation as a nation where, say, in Biden's last month in office, if he releases 100,000 illegals into the country, they just all get to stay here for life, forever? Because they came in December of 2020, and now it's a lifetime pass. And of course, you can't have a nation run that way. But we're going to focus on public safety and national security. All right,
So Mr. Miller, about Canada,
the Egyptian media today quoted a senior official that there was no call between President Trump and President Sisi. The president yesterday said on Air Force One that he has spoken to Sisi and asked him to take some of the population of Gaza.
Yeah, President Trump is correct, but any more questions on this, I want to refer to Mike Waltz. All right, last question.
Would you be willing to preview the EOs that we should expect for the rest of the week?
I would love to, but I will let the comms and press team do that. I want to thank you all for your time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Can you tell us if WIC will be?
Thank you.
Can you just tell us if WIC will be impacted? WIC, yes or no? Will it be impacted?
No public benefit program.
Okay, thank you.
So part of the point of that was that the angle the media had been taking on this was that they're suspending all of the food stamps and WIC and all of this stuff, and that's what they're trying to use to get the troops rallied, get everyone up in arms about it, and so he's coming out and saying no, that's not happening. All right, are you guys ready for this? Are you guys ready for just how much happening is happening? Just how back we are. Listen, our president.
An executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just it's just an unforced error that we even have to be doing this. Now we need Congress to provide full funding for the complete and total restoration of our sovereign borders, as well as financial support to remove record numbers of illegal aliens. And these are illegal alien killers, criminals at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And you would have known that, and you were there when I said it. I said everybody that's bad is going to be thrown. If you look at Venezuela.
Think about this as a deterrent. Guantanamo Bay. That's so good, Volp's persona. Guantanamo Bay. Sending illegals to GITMO. It's happening, boys. If somebody had told you 2 weeks ago that Trump was going to come out and announce that they're sending illegals to GITMO, you'd have been like, no, he's not going to go. There's no way he'd get away with that. There's no way. Come on, he's not sending illegals. He's sending illegals to GITMO. I wonder if he's going to send them on helicopters. And if I remember right, I saw, as there was 2 other clips I didn't pull up, but I saw them. One was Ron DeSantis was like, yeah, we'd be happy to help out with that. And the other one was Trump said that these other countries are going to be repatriating their people. He said they're going to do it and they're going to like it. And here's this one.
And under the law, thank you. Under the law I'm signing today, the Department of Homeland Security will be required to detain all illegal aliens who have been arrested for theft, burglary, larceny, shoplifting, assaulting a police officer, murder, or any crime that results in death or serious injury. In addition, for the first time ever, this act gives state governments the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever again refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the United States, like happened for 4 long years.
The point of this clip was that, right there. As part of the Lake and Riley Act that he just signed, states will now have the ability to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if any future administration ever refuses to enforce the immigration laws of the United States. So now they're covering their bases long term. And I had to do a little Googling on this to find out. And apparently it's been the case for a while that it's murky as to whether or not states will even be granted standing to sue on this basis. And now they've made it clear that states are going to be able to sue the federal government for immediate injunctive relief if the federal government refuses to enforce immigration law. Just non-stop winning. Want to make sure I got a super chat back here from Bayer Alonso, his 10th super chat. Thank you, sir. $10. Piling up the cold hard American cash today. He says, "Congratulations, King. Keep killing it, and thank you for the copious amounts of white pills. God bless." Well, thank you, sir, and God bless to you. Wyman says, "God damn, they came in ready to go. Systematic dismantling of the cabal grift system and putting safeguards in place for the future." I never could have dreamed that they would be this comprehensive. I figured they would be I thought that they were going to be better than the GOP of the past. I thought they were going to be better than the first term. I didn't think they were going to come in and just go completely scorched earth and nail down every last loose little variable. Now, inevitably, there's going to be something that they've missed. There's going to be some point where they have a misstep, or they get outmaneuvered in some way, or they have to fall back and recoup some losses somewhere. But one of the great things about this approach that they're taking, where they are absolutely bum rushing the regime from 25 different angles at the same time, the great thing about that is, if 5 of those 25, they get hung up and they don't make as much progress as they wanted, they still have all the other 20. And the regime doesn't have the resources or the political capital or the will or the organization or the institutional control to fight this many battles on this many fronts. Now, the black pillars are waiting. They're waiting for those few little things where something gets hung up. And as soon as that happens, as soon as there's a news drop about something like that, they're gonna latch onto it. And they're going to come up with some elaborate rationalization for why actually this was the most fundamental thing. This was the one thing they couldn't fail on. And they failed on this, and it's all over. I'm calling it out ahead of time because I know it's going to happen. And when they start doing it, we send them to the crystals. They reveal themselves as part of the enemy class. They are volunteering to be foot soldiers for the regime that is getting purged, destroyed, the earth salted where it once stood. And that's what's going to happen to them as well. We will not tolerate the doom fappers and the black pillars. Taylor Brown says, Susie Wiles doesn't get near enough credit for how incredibly tight-lipped this entire thing has been. That this didn't leak during the campaign is a testament to how efficient she's been. Hear, hear. And this is a big deal coming from Taylor because he was talking for a long time about, he's in the King Pill Discord, he was talking for a long time about how concerned he was about Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita because there was a big smear campaign against them about how this is the old school GOP getting their hooks into the campaign and ensuring that they're going to neuter it. And there was reason to believe that could be the case, but in retrospect, it's very clear, and this is something you should think about. The people who were pushing that the hardest, who may have been in a position to know better, you're getting a hint about what their priorities are. Because now that Susie Wiles has proven her worth by managing the campaign as well as she did, and this transition process, and she's now the chief of staff. Now that she's proven her worth, she is absolutely 100% loyal to Trump. It's well demonstrated. Plenty of people who are close to her or who know her have said the same, to the point where I'm inclined to trust and believe it beyond just the evidence that I've seen. So anybody who's been counter-signaling her, in spite of all of this, or does counter-signal her in the future, there you go. There's a signal. Because she's been such an asset, anybody who starts going after her is trying to drive a wedge between her and Trump, and they're trying to do it for a reason. I want to give a shout out to one of my recent powerful mutuals, Data Republican. So I started following her during the lead up to the election. She's a data person, crunching election data, maps, code, and numbers. Elon gave her a shout out day before yesterday, and then she followed me yesterday. So I can only assume that Elon's going to be following me here shortly. She's been doing a tremendous amount of work digging into all of these different, look at this graph that she created for all these different NGOs, the way they've facilitated the immigration grift. And she's been digging this stuff up, tagging Elon in it, and he's been giving the noted. So she's basically working for Doge now, in effect. And this one here, she says, $307,437,376 in government funds flowing to a single address providing immigration-related services. 700 Light Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230. Here's how the funds are distributed among the organizations at this location, which also reported $64 million in individual contributions. So, they had a total of $371 million in contributions, and of that, only $64 million was from individual contributions. The rest, the $370 million, was from government funds. So Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service got $222,000 in government grants and $7.7 million in cash contributions. Lutheran World Relief, Inc. got $7.1 million in grants and $53.5 million in cash contributions. And Interchurch Medical Assistance, Inc. got $79 million in government grants and $2.8 million in cash contributions. This is what the graph looks like. And this is the CEO. The CEO of a nonprofit organization that was sent $300+ million of your tax dollars for immigration-related services. Seems like an excessive amount that Doge might want to look into. This is Krish. I don't remember what her first name is, what her last name is, I don't care. Krish is the president and CEO of Global Refuge. She previously served in the Obama White House as policy director for First Lady Michelle Obama, and at the State Department as senior advisor under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Secretary of State John Kerry. This is the regime right here. And they have been dragged out into the spotlight and placed under the microscope. And the administration is going after them. She belongs in GITMO. Open and shut. And here you go. Noted. Her annual salary at the nonprofit was over $500,000 a year in 2022. Krish Omara Vignaraja. Oh, interesting. What's this? Her husband, CEO of the NWF, was a frontrunner for head of EPA for the Biden-Harris administration. So a very good chance he might have been head of EPA for Kamala. These people need to be rooted out and thrown out of the country. Honestly, if we're going to talk about mass deportations and repatriations and stuff, we need to start talking about revoking citizenship from people. Revoke citizenship and send them to a penal colony. They can go work. They can go do some manual labor and actually provide something of value for once in their lives. $10 for Politically Catholic. He says Tom Homan is going to show up on Matt's doorstep soon based on the reports of how many little white pills are being sold out of his house. I might have to worry about the DEA. Oh, this is a good point. Robert Privas says, someone in the admin has played Risk with poor opening positions. Raid and pillage weak spots and don't get bogged down until you gain the advantage. Yes. The Trust the Planners are just more validated than ever. We love our Trust the Planners, don't we, folks? And $20 from friend of the show, Duffhead. He said, just had drinks with local politicians in North Carolina. Many things are happening. Now, you guys, you can show up in the Astrolabe live chat and you might get inside info. The happenings continue to happen. Thank you guys for the super chats. Very much appreciated. Let me catch up on some of the chats here. Taylor Brown says, my guess is the initial op is cutting off the funds, gutting their cash flow and starving them out. The next phase will be special inspector generals to investigate the NGOs and narrative build. Bingo. Once the crimes have been thoroughly documented, then you will see the scalps from these NGO types. Let's see. Politically Catholic says, we're at the prosecuting the opposition's patronage networks level of how unbelievably back we are. We've got to start coming up with new ways to say we're back. We're so back. The happenings are happening so much. Can't even keep our minds wrapped around it. So, let me get to the new window here. President Trump to federal employees. Type the word resign into the subject line of the email. Hit send. So this is from this memo that was the full buyout memo from the OPM. Sent to all federal employees, titled A Fork in the Road. The pillars of the new federal government are clearly laid out. If federal employees wish to resign, they simply put resign in the subject line of the email they received. And the double tap of this, where they say, you're going to be fired. Or, like, they say, you're going to be fired. They also say, you've got to come back to work full time. You don't get to do this whole, like, what was it? It's like 6% of people are actually working in an office of federal employees. So they're just hanging out at home. Just doing nothing, getting paid for it with government benefits. Nope, you got to come home now. Or, sorry, you've got to come to work. You got to come into work now. Or, so they drop that, and all the people are like, ah! They give it a couple of days, and then they say, or you can stay at home. You can stop working altogether and get your full pay package until the end of September. Do you realize how compelling that's going to be to so many people? And the people who it's going to be most compelling to, there's a combination here. One of them, it's going to be the worst people who don't belong there at all, the least productive, most subversive, laziest, or it's going to be the most ambitious, who have no qualms about going out to the private sector, and they're like, hey, I could double up on income for a period of time. But then, by all means, let me take you up on that. So you're going to get the most valuable people pushed into the private sector. You're also going to get the least valuable people pushed out of this UBI program, this jobs program for useless people. It's a win on both sides of it. And all you have to do, there's no you don't have to go fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. Literally just reply to the email with resign in the subject line. You guys have no idea just how competent and effective this federal government is going to become. The new government will focus on 4 pillars: a return to full physical presence office culture, a high-performance environment that demands excellence, a more reduced, streamlined, and flexible workforce that will include downsizings, a high non-negotiable standard of trust, loyalty, and reliability. The memo says even if you decide to stay, there's no guarantee you will have your job in the future. If you want to resign, you have between January 28th and February 6th, and you will be paid through September 30th. Quote, whatever path you choose, we thank you for your service to the United States of America. A new age is beginning. A new America. The whole memo is linked here, or is screenshotted here and linked. It's on the OPM website. Shout out to Autism Capital for this little write-up. If you'd like to go read the whole thing yourself, then go to the King Pilled Substack, and it will be linked in there. There was something else I was going to add here. Oh, Elon tweeted yesterday that the only reason why they did a period of time as short as September 30th is because that was the longest that they could go before they had to before Congress would have to approve a new spending bill. So this is the longest they're legally allowed to offer without having to go back to Congress. That was the reason for the timeline there. So Reddit is absolutely melting down. And who would have guessed that all of the federal employees, all these useless federal employees, are also Redditors? I posted this yesterday. Reddit is awash with these types of posts. So here's one. This is from Juliet's Got a Gun on R Something Is Wrong 2024. Really need you guys right now. I'm sorry, I know it's off topic, but I'm literally crying. I knew you guys would be the only ones in my life to understand. I work for the Department of Health and Human Services, and my whole life is falling apart. I'm trying to keep it together, but it's so hard. This administration is just so evil. The fact that they stole this election is infuriating. Uh-oh, we got an election denier. Over the past few days, we have been told that we have to return to office for 5 days a week. I work fully remote and am now going to have to commute in 1.5 hours each way. So 3 hours of commute time that we need to get rid of all DEI. Aside from evil and humane this is, literally all of our programs encompass and are built on DEI policies. Oh, really? Huh. Who would have thought? It's even baked into our contracts. They are nitpicking everything. All language that sounds non-white. It's worse than is being reported. White pills abound, folks. The Iceman says, I can smell the dirty litter box. We've been told we're not even allowed to communicate with outside contractors. Our contractors are trying to reach us frantically, and we aren't even allowed to send them an email. The list goes on, but you get the gist. This is pure evil that we're dealing with, not just a stolen election. It's a dictatorship, I assure you 100%. Please keep me in your thoughts because I'm not sure how much longer I can deal with this. Thank you for listening to me. I log on here each morning and you brave souls give me the hope I need to power through each day. This is the regime. These are the feds. These are the feds that the pathetic little doomfappers told you to be afraid of. That were just so insurmountable. Could never be overcome. This is what they are. Another one. It's now a hostile work environment for the entire federal government. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I was going to be introducing porn to this show, but sue me. I don't feel safe answering the email test. I don't feel safe not answering the email test. I don't feel safe answering questions related to any of this stuff. I don't feel safe not answering questions related to any of this stuff. I don't feel safe reporting the email test as phishing. I don't feel safe not reporting it. Middle management yes men are going to tell us to get back to work, all systems normal, nothing to see here, while OPM doesn't exist. So I don't feel safe talking to anyone in the supervisory tree, and I don't feel safe working around them to ask for legal counsel or assistance. Truly alone and don't feel safe talking to coworkers about it, and don't feel safe not talking to them about it. It's a hostile work environment, and if a couple million of us stamped that idea, it might carry some weight. I don't know. And a comment. Not a federal worker here. Does everyone feel like OP? This is wild. Edit. Just reading this subreddit is giving me anxiety. I'm thinking of all of you. Take care of your physical and mental health the best you can, please. I think that they need a 8-month paid vacation. I think that's the only solution here. They need an 8-month paid vacation. And after that, they can go to Gitmo. I'm about to be laid off. Where do I even find a new job? My job was this is the best one. This is the best one of all. My job was managing the supply of bed nets that prevent malaria to children. Explain to me how I'm a bureaucrat. What? My job was bureaucracy. Explain to me how I'm a bureaucrat. How do you have an entire job managing the supply of bed nets? Bed nets that are just going to be used as fishing nets. Like, this should take like an hour a week. Yeah, my job was managing. Explain to me how I'm a manager. These are the people who are being cut loose. I said the federal government has been loaded to the gills with the most pathetic and useless people imaginable. Virtually all the federal agencies are part of a literal jobs program for stupid people. There was something, I didn't save this. Maybe I saved it. I don't remember where it is. I saw something that the over the last couple of quarters, there's been like a net loss of private sector jobs, and all of the job growth has been from government jobs. So, like, not only have we taken useless people who are, by existing, are a net drain on the system. Now we're paying them to be a net drain on the system. That's where we've been for the last who knows how long. And it's all coming to an end. Mr. Oblivion says, as a project manager, I can fix the bed nets pretty quick. I need 10,000 of these drop shipped here. Send me tracking. Here's a PO. Exactly. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And yet, they've built up these elaborate networks where the complexity and the inefficiency is a feature, not a bug. Because that's what facilitates all of the graft and all of the funding of the regime itself. The regime is a hostile entity that has taken over the federal government and embedded itself into the federal government. And now it's being rooted out. You guys are... I see that you guys are enjoying this as much as I did when I read this last night. This is obscene. How is anyone supposed to find relief from their Trumps? Trumps is just going to become the new normal. We're just going to be walking around at full mast the entire time. Whoa says, woke, Gitmo for aliens, bespoke, Gitmo for Fedditors. Fedditors is brilliant. I had to put that in the title here. The Redditor Feds. I think I put it in the title. Maybe I didn't. I was trying to decide if I wanted to get Redditors there for the Feds meltdown on Reddit. I changed my mind. I was going to use Fedditors, but I had to get a little SEO conscious. So here's an article from Zero Hedge. Are shitposting Fed workers with TDS on Reddit in violation of the Hatch Act? Please tell me this is going to get better. Could this possibly get better? The Trump administration has just offered millions of unproductive federal workers buyouts through a government-wide deferred resignation program to push efficiency and trim costs in a major restructuring effort to paralyze the deep state. One pathway the Trump team could take to cut federal workers is this. Ex-user Reddit Lies posted what appears to be user data from Reddit's r/Fed News, the largest subreddit for federal workers, showing that thousands, if not more, are spending much of the standard working day shitposting, sharing, and liking one-sided political rhetoric, potentially in violation of the Hatch Act. Here are the major findings. So here's your daily workday activity on Fed News. It's the largest subreddit for federal workers. Weekends and government holidays have been excluded from this dataset. 74% of activity occurs on workdays. 2 out of 3 posts on workdays fall between standard government workday hours. The latest one-sided political rhetoric from the subreddit feed of more than 234,000 federal employees comes from user OddRuff9732. We are the media now, truly. We are the last line of defense against fascism. To my fellow feds, especially veterans, we're at war. We watched this goon try to overthrow the government on live TV 4 years ago. Now we are witnessing him try to overthrow it from within. We are the last line of defense against fascism. If we leave, we will be replaced by loyalists. Read Project 2025 and, for the love of God, please believe what is written because that is what is happening. All the EOs are directly from that document. I didn't dedicate years of my life serving this great country to be bullied into quitting my career by a bunch of fascists. We are being led by the same types of people our grandparents fought against in World War II. Recall that Democrats used fascist or Nazi rhetoric against Trump in the prior election cycle. Remember when leftist corporate media called Trump a Nazi nonstop right before Election Day? Here's the Trump Nazi story count in MSM. Quote, we just had a meeting about employees posting memos and meeting topics on Reddit and we're told to stop leaking information. Don't stop. The people deserve to know the information, another user said. But yes, please don't stop, actually. Please keep losing your minds all over Reddit. Give us more. Fed workers... Oh, fuck off. Fed workers engaged in shitposting, liking, and reposting one-sided political viewpoints, some displaying signs of TDS, should be investigated for potential Hatch Act violations. The federal workers on r/Fed News who suffer from TDS are part of the administrative state. And judging by the content of their posts, they're terrified about change after years of being in their cozy ivory tower. The data from Reddit Lies also highlights the extent of unproductivity among some federal employees. And that's the end of it. I swear to God, if this is an actual effort by people affiliated within the Trump orbit, if they got in contact with this Reddit Lies person and had them compile this data for this purpose to begin laying the narrative groundwork for actually going after them, I never would have even thought of this. We've spent so long with the Republicans being the most backward, dinosauric, incompetent goofballs ever. And now I think there's a legitimate chance that they're going so far as to work with Anons like Reddit Lies to... Why else would you get something like this? Like, did Reddit Lies just think, hey, I should find out how... I mean, maybe Reddit Lies is just like, oh yeah, I should go figure this out and get Zero Hedge on the horn. So, like, either way, we're getting it in effect. It doesn't actually matter at the end of the day whether this was actually a coordinated intelligence operation by the administration or if it's just happening that way emergently. But at this point, I don't know that we can rule out this being something that's being explicitly undertaken using like Reddit Lies and Zero Hedge as proxies to get this sort of story out there, to make this story go viral. And it also illustrates how our guys can create these types of stories and serve that function for the administration, even if they aren't starting it themselves. Because they've shown they're more than willing to capitalize on trending issues like this and turn them into major winning political campaigns. Like, they're eating the cats. Shout out to Martin. Colin Ross says the left doesn't know how to deal with a right wing that actually has teeth. Yeah, it turns out when you're dealing with a right wing that doesn't have teeth, and the way you handle it is by just yelling and calling them Nazis, eventually you get a right wing that actually has teeth, and you keep yelling and calling them Nazis and nobody cares. Sorry. Short story here. We kind of touched on this a minute ago, but here's the actual story about it. The New York Post, USDA Inspector General escorted out of office after refusing to leave despite dismissal by Trump administration. She was physically removed from the office by security. Security agents escorted the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture out of her office on Monday after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration. Sources familiar with the matter told Reuters. Phyllis Fong, that's a very, she sounds like she's been in the country a long time. A 22-year veteran of the department. She's been there for 22 years. Had earlier told colleagues that she intended to stay after the White House terminated her Friday, saying she didn't believe the administration had followed proper protocols, the sources said. In an email to colleagues on Saturday, reviewed by Reuters, she said the Independent Counsel of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, quote, has taken the position that these termination notices do not comply with the requirements set out in law and therefore are not effective at this time. And the administration said, that's nice. Leave, please. She declined to comment. The White House defended the firing of Fong and the other inspectors general, saying, quote, These rogue partisan bureaucrats have been relieved of their duties in order to make room for qualified individuals who will uphold the rule of law and protect democracy. The USDA Inspector General has a broad mandate, pursuing consumer food safety audits and investigations of the Agriculture Department, as well as violations of animal welfare laws. The USDA has been at the heart of concerns about bird flu, which has spread among cattle and chickens and killed a person in Louisiana. There's a related story to this that Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed yesterday that this egg shortage that has caused egg prices to go up, this is a consequence of the Biden administration ordering the killing of like 100 million chickens to stop bird flu, which is just fake. This was literally a scheme by the outgoing administration to intentionally inflict harm on the population by arbitrarily restricting the supply of eggs. Could these people get any more comically evil? So this woman shouldn't just be perp walked, or she should actually be perp walked. Not just fired and ushered out by security, but perp walked and sent to GITMO. In 2022, the Inspector General's office launched an investigation of Elon Musk's brain implant startup Neuralink, which remains ongoing. Sources said, in recent years, the office has also taken on animal abuse at dog breeders for research labs and the listeria outbreak at Boar's Head, among other issues. Fong was among the 17 federal watchdogs fired by Trump in what critics described as a Friday night purge. Speaking to reporters afterward aboard Air Force One, Trump defended the move, saying, it's a very common thing to do. He did not say who would be installed in the vacant posts. Well, that's going to be an RFK decision, I would imagine. Taylor Brown says, it's cringe as hell, but the nice subtle reclamation of the our democracy rhetoric feels like it will resonate with the normies and reinforce the new paradigm. Exactly. I love it when they do this. And this is like a good like Rorschach test to identify the people who are actually still in control of their own faculties, because they recognize like there's what they're saying and there's what they're doing. It's very obvious by what they're doing that when they talk about our democracy, they're not talking about the same thing that the libs are talking about. It's very, very obvious. But they can rhetorically use the our democracy in the same way that Bukele did to flip the entire thing on them and suck the air out of their market share. It's now our democracy. It was your democracy? Yeah, now it's our democracy. Thanks. We are going to have an executive democracy. Deal with it. Are you an enemy of democracy? Do you want unmanaged democracy? You couldn't want unmanaged democracy. Intelligence officials are starting to leak to me now. Here's Ken Klippenstein, one of the worst shitlibs on Twitter. Here's a memo Defense Intelligence Agency personnel received instructing them to suspend observances including Holocaust Remembrance Day, MLK Day, Juneteenth. And here's what the memo says. It's a pause on special emphasis programs and related activities and events. The agency is working internally and with the department to implement the executive orders ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing, and initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. Dated January 20th. We are receiving questions across the workforce on the way forward with special emphasis programs, special observances, agency resource groups, affinity groups, and employee networking groups. DIA will pause all activities and events related to agency special emphasis programs, effective immediately and until further notice. Additionally, special observances hosted throughout the year by the command element, directorates, and special offices are also paused. These include observances related to the following: Martin Luther King Jr. birthday, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Holocaust Day / Days of Remembrance, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Pride, Juneteenth, Women's Equality Day, National Hispanic Heritage Month, National Disability Employment Awareness Month, National American Indian Heritage Month. The pause will not affect the federal holidays. That's coming later. The release of the MLK documents are going to lay the groundwork for ending Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as a celebratory event. DIA will also pause agency resource groups, affinity groups, and employee networking groups effective immediately and until further notice. This is what winning looks like. All of your special observances, they're getting thrown in the trash. This is a culture change. We are rooting out your ideology. We are rooting it out and burning it to the ground. It's a new world now. And how, one might ask, is the public taking all of this? Well, Quinnipiac reports that the favorability rating here for Republicans, it's at -2. So 43% favorable, 45% unfavorable. Democrats, 31% favorable, 57% unfavorable. I don't think that in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen the Democrats have a favorability rating this low. This is like absolutely catastrophic for the party. They are getting the ground just absolutely wiped with their faces, and they don't even have the refuge of popular opinion to fall back on. And like, how are you going to reverse this? What are you going to do to make the Democratic Party more palatable to people? In some way that makes Republicans less palatable? What issue are they going to champion? Who is going to be their champion? There's no way out. I'm just going to keep planting my flag on this, that the future of the Democratic Party is going to hinge on to what extent Trump decides to let them continue to exist, and they are going to be reconstituted as a Maha party. That's their only hope of the future, is that the Maha movement winds up, whether amicably or not, winds up parting ways with MAGA, and 2028 is a MAGA versus Maha election. That's the only path forward that I can see for the Democrats. All right, more good news. You guys, have I worn you out yet? Have you gotten worn out with good news? Can you handle any more? Do you even have the constitution to take on more good news? The cyberbully has sent another message. Busy day today. Cyberbully's hard at work. Got a busy day, but he's going to make sure he drops you a little message here. TGIW. Listen closely.
Cyberbully here, reporting for duty. Sir, yes, sir. I'm your top guy with honors. I'm just taking the opportunity to kick back for a few on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. Well, every Wednesday is beautiful and utterly white-pilled in the land of eternal white boy summer, but I digress. Listen, I spared a pinch of crystal dust this morning just to turn on the cyclonic synchrometer and see if I could get a quick reading on the general vibe there within the ice wall. I'm happy to report spirits are high, but at the same time, I detected a little winning fatigue, which, left unaddressed, has a way of scrambling your sigma waves. Not to worry, I have just what the doctor ordered, a little folk remedy from my neck of the woods, and it doubles as an all-natural trans vaccine. First, take a break from the 24-hour news cycle. It doesn't have to be long. I know you're a little busy beaver when it comes to consuming the news. But listen, the headlines and the memes, it'll all still be there when you come back. I promise. Next, knock back a glass of raw, unpasteurized milk and go for a little walk. Touch grass, as the kids say. Or heck, even hop in the Miata or whatever you're zipping around in these days and throw on the Mighty Mighty Boss tones. Or the soundtrack from your Tony Hawk Pro Skater of choice. Truly, whatever floats your blimp. Just in the meantime, of course, until EWBSX is finally up and running. Anyway, the point is this. Don't get so caught up in the noise that you forget that the real eternal white boy summer is in your heart. Oh, and P.S. Cyberbully face reveal at 300 followers? I don't know. Do you? All right. Take care.
A face reveal? Where are we at? 213 followers. You guys know what to do. Go to @EWBSX Cyberbully on Twitter. Go follow him. He's working on good stuff for us. He's tuning up the cyclonic synchrometer. But if you want to see his face, if you want to see the face of the cyberbully, put a face to the voice, you got to go follow. We need 87 more followers. We'll get on up there, and you can see the face of the cyberbully. Simon the Amputee is here. What's up, man? $20 super chat. Thank you, my friend. It's good to see you here. I like it when these guys drop in every so often, especially when they bring money. All right, let's keep it going. Now, this one, I could not put this one into the title because for obvious reasons. I'm not going to post some of these terms in the title on YouTube. It's going to be sketchy enough playing the clip as it is. But Tucker Carlson just posted an episode. It's only about 30 minutes long, talking about the JFK files. And in the middle of it, they had a little conversation about Israel's involvement in the assassination of JFK.
Let me mention another JFK document that's very important and I think will interest you. One of the things that's withheld and is in the JFK collection right now is the testimony of James Angleton about the Israeli nuclear program. It's a 113-page document, heavily redacted to this day. The redactions clearly pertain to Israel. If the president and this effort are serious, that testimony will be declassified because Angleton controlled the Oswald file on the one hand, and he was a contact with the Israelis on the others.
Why would the Dimona project, the Israeli nuclear program, which has never officially been admitted by anybody but Israel, what would that have to do with the assassination of JFK?
There were profound conflicts between Israel and the Kennedy White House over the nuclear program. Kennedy was pressing for on-site inspections, which the Israelis resisted because they would have realized that they had a bomb-making program. Angleton was called in and he was grilled about lots of things, about domestic spying, about the Israeli nuclear program, about the JFK assassination.
It is interesting that one of the only major policy changes that Johnson made in the year after the president's murder was on the Israeli nuclear program.
He dropped the demand for on-site inspections. He dropped the demand that AIPAC be classified as a domestic lobby. And this is a tough call for the president because he's going to get very strong pushback from his national security apparatus, supported by Israeli interests, to say, no, you can't talk about that. That's not permitted.
Taylor Brown says, anyone doubting Tucker being one of our guys at this point is getting the crystals. Yes. Robert Privas says, Tucker already knows. That grin. And I can give you absolute assurances that Tucker knows. You guys would be over the moon if you knew what Tucker Carlson has been listening to. And take this episode, this little episode getting dropped, 30 minutes, just a quick little drop in. But they take time in the middle of this to touch on this particular issue immediately on the heels of Tucker's conversation with Kurt Mills from American Conservative that was... yeah, Duffhead says Tucker is basically 109 posting for several episodes now. Yes. Very thinly veiled. This signaling is strong, and it's happening for a reason. Happenings are happening. Now, for a little more context on this, if you don't know, this from Vincent James, who I've had a lot of people tell me that I sound like him. I've never really listened to him, and I guess I don't really listen to myself that much, but here's a little breakdown.
You can't talk about the Kennedy assassination without talking about Israel, without talking about the Messiah. They're the main people involved. That's the main group involved. The prime minister of Israel at the time said that without nuclear weapons, Israel would not survive. Kennedy was asking for neutral scientists to observe the reactor. He continued to push for this with CIA Director McCone and finally was granted access. Israel, prior to the visit, set up a fake control room with fake control panels, and part of the agreement was that the inspectors were never going to be able to inspect the actual reactor. After that visit, Kennedy was quoted in saying, "Those sons of bitches lie to me constantly about their nuclear capability." The Jewish community invites JFK to come to Dallas, which was sponsored by the Dallas Citizens Council, which was directed by Julius Sheps, who was a member of the local B'nai B'rith organization, the ADL B'nai B'rith, once again. A confirmed member of the local B'nai B'rith as well, Abraham Zapruder, was also just so happened to be the guy that caught the assassination on film. Zapruder was also a manufacturer headquartered in the Dallas Textiles building. According to ballistic studies, it was from that building the first two shots were fired and missed. The building was owned by David Weisblatt, one of the biggest financiers of the Anti-Defamation League, and Douglas Jaffe, one of the biggest donors to Lyndon B. Johnson. The host committee that invited Kennedy to the event in Dallas was chaired by a guy named Sam Bloom. According to Dallas police, it was Bloom who pushed the hardest for the police to transfer Lee Harvey Oswald from the Dallas police station to the Dallas County Jail. Now, it was during that transfer that Jack Ruby shot Oswald. What was Jack Ruby's real last name? Jakob Rubinstein. The reactor went crazy.
Just want to read that real quick here. Ruby's defense lawyer, William Kunstler, also claims in his memoir that Ruby told him, quote, "I did it for the Jews," repeating on several occasions, quote, "I did this that they wouldn't implicate Jews." During Kunstler's last visit, Ruby handed him a note in which he reiterated that his motive was to, quote, "protect American Jews from a pogrom that could occur because of anger over the assassination," end quote. There's only one possible interpretation of Ruby's words. He must have known, and there's only one. It's an ended sentence. I don't even get the full sentence. But anyways, we'll continue.
The reactor went critical right after Kennedy died, and they got the bomb a year or two later. That's kind of a coincidence, isn't it? That's kind of a strange coincidence. Kennedy dies, Israel gets the bomb. Gets the bomb.
وهكذا قتل كينيدي بسبب مفاعل ديمونة وصراعه على تفتيشه.
Kennedy was killed. This is from Gaddafi. Kennedy was killed because he insisted on the monitoring of the Dimona plant. And if you've never heard any of this stuff before, and your whistle is wetted, then I will refer you over to this episode right here from Ryan Dawson on Rumble called NUMEC, How Israel Stole the Atomic Bomb and Killed JFK. I'll drop the link in the description, or the link will be in the description for the audio podcast, and it will also be on the King Pilled Substack. If you go to kingpilled.substack.com, I'm going to very strongly recommend that you go listen to this entire episode. The production value on it is phenomenal. And it's going to make a lot of stuff make sense to you. It puts together a whole hell of a lot of pieces. Yes, we're Ryan Dawson posting. The chat has been so good today. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. Big things are happening. This is from Davos. This is the chairman and CEO of State Street, the second largest custodian on Wall Street. Digital asset investor says, "You aren't even close to bullish enough."
digital assets and a framework, a regulatory framework for that would be very helpful. With crypto, the key issue for banks has been, are they able to custody it? Up till now, they haven't been able to, given the way the accounting rules have been applied. But to the extent to which that changes, I mean, that's then something we'd be interested in custody.
The biggest issue for banks has been the inability to custody Bitcoin. Well, as of this post here I saved on January 23 from Michael Saylor, Staff Accounting Bulletin number 121 has been rescinded, allowing banks to custody Bitcoin. And then today, from Jerome Powell, shout out to Marty Bent over at TFTC, he says, we're reaching levels of capitulation that I didn't think we'd reach until the 2030s. This is Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed.
Banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers as long as they understand and can manage the risks, and it's safe and soundness. A good number of our banks that we regulate and supervise do that. The threshold has been a little higher for banks engaging in crypto activities, and that's because they're so new. And we don't want to make the mistake. If you're making a choice to conduct that activity inside a bank, which is inside the federal safety net with deposit insurance, then you want to be pretty sure that it's a safe and sound activity. So, we're not against innovation, and we certainly don't want to take actions that would cause banks to terminate customers who are perfectly legal just because of excess risk aversion, maybe related to regulation and supervision. So,
obviously, that's fairly dry coming from Jerome Powell. Allow me to interpret for you. Bitcoin go up. And just in, let me highlight this. Colin Ross says, self-custody is the only acceptable way to hold your crypto, not your keys, not your coins. Yes, on the individual level, self-custody is the way to go. However, if you're looking at, for me, I'm not really looking at Bitcoin as an investment at this point in time. If what I'm looking at here is one of the major hurdles to the legitimization and the mass adoption of Bitcoin has been banks not being able to custody it. Now they can. And Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announces establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve as a priority bill for the 2025 legislative session. This is what he says. He issued this statement today upon announcing the first round of his top 40 priority bills for the 89th regular legislative session. Thousands of bills are filed by Texas senators each session. Traditionally, bill numbers 1 through 20 have indicated the lieutenant governor's priorities for the Senate. In 2017, I increased the number of priority bills to 30. This year, I'm increasing the number of priority bills to 40. Senators like having a low bill number since it shows their bill is a priority of the lieutenant governor and has a high probability of passage. These bills represent the will of the conservative majority of Texans, and many will pass with bipartisan support. Just because a bill is not included in the top 40 does not mean it's not a priority for me or the Senate. There will be hundreds of bills that pass the Senate, all of which are important to Texas. Many other priorities are included in our state budget, and yada, yada, yada. So, number one is Senate's budget for Texas. Number two is providing school choice. And you scroll on down here, and boop, Senate Bill number 21, establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve. Number 21, huh? Number 21. What a fascinating number. Those who know, know. Nadernaut says, the volume on the media you play is never high enough. Well, appreciate the feedback. I will do my best to, I try to get it higher, but I don't have a way right now to actually see how loud it is for you guys. So I'll just try to err a little higher on the, on my estimates there. What's this here? Armchair Contrarian says, Jason Lowery wrote the book on nation-state strategic Bitcoin usage. Literally, the book is called Soft War. Yes, and I'd like to read it. I think the only way you can get it right now, I think if you actually printed it, it's wildly expensive, but there is a PDF out there, but that means I'd have to sit down and actually read with my eyes. And since it's 2025, I don't know how to read with my eyes anymore. I have to read with my ears. But I'm a big fan of Jason Lowery, and I strongly recommend his conversation series with Robert Breedlove. Few people, I think, have understood the significance of Bitcoin as a technology like Jason Lowery has. Yes, the 21 is for the 21 million. And on in related but different but related news, the Bank of England is on the ropes as it has de facto halted delivery of gold or defaulted. They're supposed to have about 5,000 metric tons of gold, but are making buyers wait 4 to 8 weeks for delivery instead of a few days. The wait to draw, this is from a screenshot from an article, the wait to withdraw bullion stored in the Bank of England's vaults has risen from a few days to between 4 and 8 weeks, according to people familiar with the process, as the central bank struggles to keep up with demand. One industry executive said people can't get their hands on gold because so much has been shipped to New York, and the rest is stuck in the queue. Liquidity in the London market has been diminished. The Bank of England declined to comment. Since November's U.S. election, gold traders and financial institutions have moved 393 metric tons into the vaults of the COMEX Commodity Exchange in New York, driving its inventory levels up nearly 75% to 926 tons, the highest level since August of 2022. And here's an article on this from the Financial Times. Gold stockpiling in New York leads to London shortage. Wait to withdraw bullion from Bank of England rises sharply as fears of Trump tariffs drive shipments to U.S. A surge in gold shipments to the U.S. has led to a shortage of bullion in London as traders amass an $82 billion stockpile in New York over fears of Trump administration tariffs. The wait to withdraw bullion stored in the Bank of England's vaults has risen from a few days to between 4 and 8 weeks, according to people familiar with the process, as the central bank struggles to keep up with demand. People can't get their hands on gold because so much has been shipped to New York and the rest is stuck in the queue, said one industry executive. Liquidity in the London market has been diminished. Total gold flows into the U.S. could be far higher than the COMEX numbers reflect, according to market participants, because there are likely to have been additional shipments to private banks in New York owned by HSBC and JP Morgan. The two banks declined to comment. Tom Luongo appreciators will know the difference between HSBC, which is not an American bank, which is a City of London bank, and JP Morgan, which is an American bank. And I'll just say, if somebody knows more about this than I do, then I would be happy to hear if I'm wrong on this. But what stands out to me is the Bank of England is supposed to have 5,000 metric tons, but now they're making buyers wait 4 to 8 weeks for delivery instead of a few days. And this article says they're attributing this to all this money going to New York instead of London, or all this gold going to New York instead of London. But they said 393 metric tons. So if they're supposed to have 5,000 tons, and suddenly the reason why they don't have any available is because 393 tons have gone to New York, my suspicion would be, and this is me wish casting a little bit, but my suspicion is that if we were to see how much gold JP Morgan has been taking in, it would become even more evident that what is happening here is the Bank of London is being intentionally bankrupted. Traders say the shipments are intended to avoid tariffs on bullion that some fear could be introduced by U.S. President Donald Trump. Quote, there's a feeling that Trump could go across the board and impose new tariffs on raw materials coming into the U.S., including gold, said Michael Haig, head of commodities research at Societe Generale. There's a bit of a scramble among participants in the gold market to protect themselves. The shipments are also the result of high prices on the futures exchange in New York, then in the cash market, in higher prices on the future exchange in New York, then in the cash market in London. The unusual arbitrage opportunity has incentivized traders to send the metal across the Atlantic. I very highly doubt, I'm not educated enough to get into the intricacies of all of this, but I very highly doubt that this unusual arbitrage opportunity is just some sort of organic feature of the market. Trump has yet to spell out his trade policy and has not specifically mentioned a duty on bullion, but... Shut up, Siri. Don't talk to me. Okay. What did I say that got Siri's attention? Trump has yet to spell out his trade policy and has not specifically mentioned a duty on bullion, although he has threatened to impose wide-ranging tariffs on U.S. imports. Gold prices have risen 5% since the start of the year and are just $30 shy of their all-time record of $27.90 per troy ounce set in October. London and New York are two main global markets for trading, with most physical trading taking place in the UK, while the futures market is in the US. Many market participants compare the current US gold rush with the situation during the COVID pandemic, when lockdowns and uncertainty over shipments of gold triggered a surge in stockpiling on COMEX. The BOE stores gold for third parties such as financial institutions, as well as for other central banks and the UK Treasury. So this is the gold inventories in New York. You can see how they've surged here. So they peaked up here during COVID and then wandered their way on down, and then they've surged back up again. And the Bank of England is in way worse shape now than they were in 2020. COMEX gold inventories have shot up 36% this month with 244 metric tons of inflows, the highest monthly inflows since May of 2020 at the peak of the pandemic. Traders said they needed access to gold to fulfill certain futures contracts, which allow the buyer to take physical delivery of gold. The movement of gold needed to make its way into New York. That is basically what has been driving stockpiling, said Joe Cavatoni, market strategist at the World Gold Council. That's leading a lot of people to say, we want to get ahead of it, and that's driving the futures market into a premium. However, Cavatoni said he was cautiously optimistic that the coming tariffs would most likely not apply to bullion. Quote, we are not getting a sense from the rhetoric from the administration that it intends to go after the monetary metals, he said. Last week, June contracts for physical gold and COMEX traded at a premium of up to $60 per troy ounce over the London price. The difference has since fallen back to $10 per troy ounce as traders have moved gold to New York. And then what was the next thing I had in here? Oh, yes, this. Okay, so from Luke Groman. Let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat real quick. My son is just being himself. My wife says Eastwood just farted in Chick-fil-A and completely straight-faced said, speaking of dumps. He comes up with these one-liners every day. What a kid. Yeah, Duffhead says his chat is nutso. Okay, let's keep going here with Luke Groman. So he shares this tweet. This is from Matt Stoller. Says has this video clip. On CNBC, Biden's former Council of Economics chair Jared Bernstein is worried that deportations of undocumented workers in the construction and restaurant sectors will raise U.S. wages.
President, he's following through, but as somebody...
Okay, that one's really quiet. So let me... I'm responsive. I respond to the people here. So let me pull this volume up as much as I can.
President, he's following through, but as somebody who's a scholar of the labor market, what are your main issues or concerns?
Well, the labor market looks to me to be pretty well aligned right now, and that's very important, both in terms of inflation and probably even more so, and topically for today, from the Federal Reserve's perspective. If you deport a lot of folks, and not just broadly speaking, but in particular sectors, in industries that disproportionately hire immigrants and probably undocumented ones. So construction is a good example, certain parts of retail, parts of restaurants. Then you can see real potential supply shortfalls. We know what that does on the wage side, and that can feed into inflation. So I'm concerned that the combination of tariffs, deportation is potentially inflationary. If you then start to screw around with Fed independence, you have a real problem.
Now, as a reminder, this is Jared Bernstein.
the U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds.
You could basically see the loading bar in his brain up here just spiraling. And he's like cranking out as many words as he possibly can, waiting for his brain to catch up. But it turns out that there's nothing there to catch up.
Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah, so a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to, yeah, I guess I'm just, I can't really talk, I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the government clearly prints money, it does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
The chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. So Luke Groman says, Bernstein saying the quiet part out loud this morning. For the past 40 years, the U.S. government and Fed have pursued economic policies that have subjugated U.S. working and middle classes to support the U.S. Treasuries market, i.e. Washington, D.C. and Wall Street, including encouraging wide-open immigration to cap wages. He's effectively openly admitting it right now, and as you can see from the clip I just played for you, he's just retarded. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, well, the problem here is that wages might start rising. And that's going to be a problem. Once wages start rising, once people start getting more money, that's when everything breaks. Well, yeah, because the entire system has been designed to send all the dollars overseas, send all of the manufacturing overseas, and depress American wages, make them become dependent serfs, raise up everyone else, bankrupt the United States, and then issue the central bank digital currency and run everything out of the IMF or whatever. Basically just admitting it outright now. He said this was all fun and games until we learned in COVID that this system resulted in the U.S. being critically dependent on China for critical medical supplies, and learned in Ukraine the U.S. military is critically dependent on China for weapon components. Change cometh, and that right soon. Groman is excellent. If you're not following him, go follow him, go subscribe to him on YouTube, and anytime he does an interview, go listen to him. He knows his shit. He's a very good communicator, and very much one of our guys. And this point here that he's making, that COVID indicated the U.S. is critically dependent on China for medical supplies, and Ukraine indicated the U.S. military is critically dependent on China for weapon components, that's when everything really changed. And I'm not saying like with the rank and file, the plebs, I'm saying the actual movers and shakers, the actual power brokers, particularly within the Pentagon. That's when it became very evident that the fiat system, the U.S. having the dollar being the global reserve currency in this currently structured system has become a matter of major national security. Because now, what do? We need to reshore manufacturing. We need to eliminate all these regulations. We need to make it a lot easier to manufacture and maintain stockpiles of critical medical supplies and control our own military development. Because if there's some sort of a military conflict with China, well, you don't want China to be your primary supplier of military technology if you are actively engaged in hostilities with them. And Ukraine indicated that the U.S. military is not what it once was. The Western military capacity in general is not what it once was, which is a part of just a simple lack of innovation and development and manufacturing that's all been crushed by the Longhouse, by the nanny state. Regulations, DEI, ESG, all this stuff has been crippling the United States. And that's when it became a national security issue, which for people who are not part of the Borg, they're just simply like influential, talented, intelligent, serious people with power who want the United States to exist and to be great because it's where they live. It's where all of their assets are. It's where they keep all their stuff. That's when they said this is enough. Okay. Let's finish off here with the... Okay, we're going to do a test. Let's see what the viewership's at 158 right now. We just hit 100 likes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See if we can get to 125 in the next few minutes here, next 15 minutes or so. We're going to do a test. I'm going to tell you what the last subject is we're going to be covering, and we're going to see how much the viewership drops off. We're going to test the audience on this particular term. So this last segment is about Curtis Yarvin. Passage Publishing says, who is Curtis Yarvin? Why are people saying he won?
This is Curtis Yarvin. He is talking about the need to, seize the universities, use the government to destroy businesses who aren't right-wing, rip out the American system like a tumor. He means we're at the time right before the Roman Republic collapsed. And what happened after the Roman Republic collapsed? Well, a dictator, Caesar, came in, and wasn't that better?
Which is ready to retire all government employees. We simply believe in NGOs, things that are called universities, things that are funded by the state. It's a very, very large system. We have to control this. Right.
If Americans want to change their government, they're going to have to get over their dictator phobia. Watch this space.
Watch this space indeed. All right, so this is Yarvin's newest from Gray Mirror on Substack, Gray with an A, the American way. The pleasure of error. Every prophet is a comedian, and every comedian a prophet. This is where Yarvin admits that he was wrong. While he's winning, what a great man. In the midst of all his winning, he is coming out and admitting where he was wrong. After a week, I think it's clear that Donald Trump was not engaging in hyperbole when he told the libs, "We will do things to you that have never been done before." What an incredible line. What a comedian. What a prophet. Many such cases. Poetry is just a line that sticks in your head. And while bad politics is bad poetry, good politics is good poetry. Politics and religion are brothers, and comedy is the cousin of both. Every prophet is a comedian. Every comedian is a prophet. This is Hallmark stuff. Everyone should know it. I was talking to a very worried lib a couple months before the election. I was like, dude, remember that full-page huge point headline in the Times? When Donald Trump says, long list of hyperbolic threats to libs and livery, believe him. I was like, Trump University? Trump Stakes? And let's not forget, for the intellectual right of 2017, the great Ann Coulter's epic literary fumble, In Trump We Trust. As a writer after 2020, the idea of trusting Trump to execute, as opposed to his talents as a comedian, prophet, etc., was like putting your savings in Trump coin. Has the man changed? Do men change? And yet, all the Bayesian logic went one way. A bullet went another. So did history. So much for Hari Seldon. Somehow, as too often happens, I was wrong, but not exactly surprised. As a pessimist by temperament, I find it important to be a pessimist by trade. Also, everyone has to be a pessimist by logic. Pessimism optimizes tail risk optionality since you are either wrong or disappointed, never both. The pragmatic case for pessimism. However, being wrong is being wrong. For one thing, I owe some people, like Chris Rufo, an apology. Was my tongue in my cheek? Maybe. I'm not sure if I bet him a bottle of scotch, but I owe him a bottle of scotch. For another thing, if I'm wrong, it means there's something wrong with my model. There isn't anything structurally wrong with my model, I don't think. It's just that I kind of underestimated one of the forces that's been operating in it. That force is the voltage differential of progressive ideology. When 2020 happened and 1970s New Left dogma planted its flag in every American kindergarten, not to mention on every American Wynant's lawn, it appeared to be the final victory of this century-old aristocratic oligarchic movement. But most things are cyclical. Victory has a map of its own defeat, and defeat of its own victory. Man, the man has a way of turning a phrase. I always enjoy reading him, no matter what. Whether I agree with him or not, I always enjoy reading him because he knows how to manipulate words. It's that high verbal IQ. No one is telling me I was wrong about the 2020 election. And indeed, he wasn't. The differential is the ideological difference between social classes. Luxury beliefs are indelible status markers. Once the luxury belief goes mainstream, the final station on Foucault's long march from the French literature department, it is useless as a marker. Unless something still more radical, voluntary human extinction maybe, comes down this pipeline, after the victory of the marker, there is no marker at all. Energy has to flow from high to low voltage. Once everything is high voltage, ... What he's saying here is a luxury belief by necessity cannot be mainstream. Because if it's mainstream, it's not luxury. Luxury implies that it's not mainstream. So the libs engaged in all of these luxury beliefs, like, there's no fundamental difference between men and women, or there's no such thing as the gender binary, or whatever. Like all these different luxury beliefs they had. As long as they were held by a minority, there was power in them, because there was status and there was prestige to be taken from them. Once they went mainstream, there was no status associated with it anymore. It becomes kind of like blasé. And there's no longer a reason to hold a luxury belief if it doesn't actually confer the sense of status or luxury. Anti-racism, for instance, is no longer a marker. Hick preachers in Alabama are anti-racist. Your baby is anti-racist. So is mine. It's all good, man. We may move on from anti-racism. We can never move past it. It happened. Now it's done. There are no cool teenage parties of the only 9 anti-racist skater kids in Oxford, Alabama. Live by fashion, die by fashion. When there is no differential, there is no energy. The structures created by the energy remain, but there is no force that maintains them. Rather than being highly resilient under attack, they are highly friable under attack. They are husks without the power to defend or restore themselves. I was wrong because I imagined Trump 47 taking, like Trump 45, small performative steps to untangle the obvious Gordian knot standing between the chief executive and his actual constitutional control of the executive branch. Long since hacked by the Congress through a bizarrely micromanaged appropriations process, which certainly does not resemble any 18th century idea of the power of the purse, itself a dubious innovation dating back to Puritan lawfare in the early 17th century. And if Puritans in the early 17th century found it useful, that definitely means we need to reverence it. The Constitution was made for men, not men for the Constitution. And in fact, it was made well, because it is starting to seem that what Article 1 can hack, Article 2 can hack right back. As FDR tweeted, "Action in this image and to this end is feasible under the form of government which we have inherited from our ancestors. Our Constitution is so simple and practical that it is possible always to meet extraordinary needs by changes in emphasis and arrangement without loss of essential form. That is why our constitutional system has proved itself the most superbly enduring political mechanism the modern world has produced." End quote. So, when he's talking about, this is the link here, this is an excerpt from his famous first inaugural address. And he's saying, where he basically calls for massive power, he's saying action toward that end is feasible under the form of government we've inherited from our ancestors. Our Constitution is so simple and practical that it's possible always to meet extraordinary needs by changes in emphasis and arrangement without loss of essential form. So essentially, you can just take that Constitution and you can kind of turn it this way or turn it that way, and oh, look at that. This thing is constitutional. So, in FDR's case, it was, I can rule as effectively an elected monarch, and it's entirely constitutional. Because this is the Article 2 executive. And I can create this massive sprawling bureaucracy, and it's entirely constitutional. That's a sword that cuts both ways. And this is something that this is the point Yarvin was making to Charlie Kirk way back a year ago when he was on his podcast. We talked about it here on the show. Charlie kept saying things kind of like, well, you know, I like a lot of what you're saying, but I don't want to just do away with the Constitution. I want to preserve it. And Yarvin kept saying, no. I'm not saying do away with the Constitution. I'm saying, in fact, the Constitution is brilliant. It's great. It's fantastic. Embedded within the Constitution as it is the justification for Trump to do all of the things that Trump is now doing. That was one of the first clues that I started getting. I was like, okay, if Charlie Kirk is talking to Curtis Yarvin and they're talking about this, there's legs to this idea. We're at 109 likes. Let's get it to 110, folks. Got to take a little brief intermission because I've been attacked by a beast. What are you tonight?
What kind of beast? What are beasts?
A beast is like a creature, like a scary, monstrous creature. What are you? What kind of beast are you?
I'll give you some hints.
Okay, you're gonna give some hints?
I am gray and black spotted, and I have little stripes of yellow and blue all over. And I have wings, and I'm a type of crustaceous, and I have really big eyes, and I can see very far.
I don't have any idea what you are. What are you?
Take a guess.
Are you some kind of dinosaur?
Nope.
Are you...
I'm a type of insect.
You're a type of insect. Oh, are you? No. All right, I got to keep doing my show, bud.
Why not?
Because that's my food.
Take more educated guesses.
Take more educated guesses?
Uh-huh.
You're a kind of bug. Are you a spider?
Nope.
You're not a spider.
No spiders have arms.
Look at this. See these over here? See the little pigs? They're doing oinks in the chat for you. For you and Pig Dirk. All right. I need you to go back out now, okay, Bubba? Are you a mantis?
I'm a crustaceous mantis.
You're a crustaceous mantis?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a very interesting thing. All right, bud.
Daddy, can you tell me how this works?
Yeah, I'll show you how that works later as soon as I'm done doing a show, okay? Can you go? No. Please leave that alone. No. Leave it alone.
What turns the fan on?
There's a button on the fan that turns it on, but I don't want it on right now.
I just want to know where the button is.
Okay, I'll show it to you after my show, okay? Can you go out, please?
Oh, is it one of these ones?
Yep, it's one of those ones. Please leave it off right now. Eastwood. I'll show it to you as soon as my show's done, okay? Go out and close the door behind you, please. Thank you, bud. No idea what sort of creature he is, but I'll find out about it later. Crustacean mantis, apparently. Some sort of thing. His imagination is majestic. All right. I've got Chick-fil-A next to me, so we're going to finish this up here rather quickly. Back to the reading. Ultimately, what killed the USSR, our weird eastern cousin, in the second half of the 20th century was its loss of the moral energy that communism inspired in the first half. Not that communism was ever moral in the sense of being good, but moral as in morale. As Napoleon put it, in war, the moral is to the physical as 10-1. Moral energy is the good old will to power. The USG will outlast the USSR because at the top level, our Constitution deliberately fails to specify the precedence of its three branches. Okay, I don't have historical evidence that this design was intentional, but maybe we could just take it on faith. The effect of these unspecified political semantics, and even perhaps the purpose, is that of the dying Alexander's decision to hand down his empire, quote, to the strongest. Control peacefully oscillates between the branches with the strongest will to power. Therefore, the government stays strong and keeps the country healthy and great. Is this really that counterintuitive? Things are happening in Washington because the moral energy of the new executive branch is suddenly much greater than the moral energy of the administrative branch, and even the judicial branch. Once the vibe shift reaches a certain threshold frequency, I predict even the supple swing justices will start vibrating to its tune. As for the legislative branch, it A, is elected, and B, has a popularity rating of 13%, none of which is on TikTok. We may ask of any political structure, who would miss it? And here's your little hint at the groundwork being laid for AI Congress. The Republicans of the second half of the 20th century acknowledged that FDR's regime, or the headless bureaucracy it became after FDR's death, the power of even Democratic presidents declined in the second half of the 20th century. No successor, even LBJ, had a fraction of FDR's discretion in guiding the state and the nation, had generally more morale than any president it could elect. Let me get that full sentence. The Republicans of the second half of the 20th century acknowledged that FDR's regime, or the headless bureaucracy it became after FDR's death, had generally more morale than any president it could elect. The personal qualities of the man did not matter. The system could tame him. Even the 60s firebrand Reagan became a pussycat in the White House. Nixon fought hard. He was totally defeated. But the power held by FDR's regime was a consequence of two things: competence and moral energy. Its competence was startup tier. Its energy was off the charts. That was then, this is now. Trump 47 is not cutting the Gordian knot, not yet anyway, but rather than untangling it gingerly like a 90s Republican as though it was electrified, he's grabbing it with both hands and ripping out big hunks. It turns out that the knot, with ox cart attached, has been hanging in Gordius's palace courtyard for 80 years. Not exactly a climate-controlled environment. The fibers, once springy, seem to have deteriorated and become brittle. Fungus may even be indicated. Now, it is unclear that ripping out hunks of the knot will work. For instance, RAGE, or Retire All Government Employees, wasn't supposed to be a voluntary program. I still think a substantial percentage of federal employees will take Trump's early retirement proposal, more than expected. And I don't see why it has to be so stingy. Why just 9 months severance? After a lifetime of service, why not all 4 years? Just go. Your silver will still be delivered, without fail, to your mailbox. With 4 years to make yourself useful in some other way to some other human being or beings, plus, of course, your existing retirement package, who can feel mistreated? As for the money, it's not silver. We could print it. This is its own problem and has its own solution. But as Cromwell said, you have sat too long here for any good you have been doing. In the name of God, go. The reality of government is that there are three things. A, things the government is doing that it shouldn't be doing. B, things the government isn't doing but should be doing. And C, things the government is doing and should be doing. Anyone with the slightest experience of both Silicon Valley and Washington, D.C. knows that even when it comes to C, the actual problems, by far the most efficient way to make an efficient organization to solve an actual problem is to make a new one, not to fix the old one. In fact, Washington already knows this. The government proper doesn't do anything anymore. It puts out a contract or makes a grant. The contractors and grantees work on the same principle as Silicon Valley companies, more or less. Top-down command, not process-based bureaucracy. But if, to paraphrase the Bhagwan, the contracts and grants are retarded, the problem is only made worse. And the Bhagwan, you can probably deduce, is this.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
So the contractors and grantees work on the same principle as Silicon Valley companies, more or less, top-down command, not process-based bureaucracy. But if the contracts and grants are retarded, the problem is only made worse. There are many situations in which keeping the assets and personnel, looking at you, air traffic controllers, of the old organization would make sense. But the whole system? Why would anyone who wanted to govern America efficiently want to reuse it? On the contrary, the first job of any new system is shutting the old system down. Another analogy. True top-down White House control of the executive branch is like a bicycle that's been sitting outside in the rain for 80 years. Previous Republican presidents, including Trump himself, had picked it up, posed with it, pretended to sit on it, actually sat on it, etc. But no one has actually tried to ride FDR's rusty old bicycle. What happens when you try? Do the pedals move? Does the chain break? The post? It's fascinating to see Trump, plus a small army of revved-up nerdy Zoomers, try to actually ride the bike. For all the reasons I said, it works much better than I expected. But couldn't we afford a new bike? Wouldn't it be worth it? For the paper route? What is the real story of the knot? Wikipedia is helpful. Quoting, an oracle had declared that any man who could unravel its elaborate knots was destined to become ruler of all of Asia. Alexander the Great wanted to untie the knot, but struggled to do so before reasoning that it would make no difference how the knot was loosed. Sources from antiquity disagree on his solution. In one version of the story, he drew his sword and sliced it in half with a single stroke. However, Plutarch and Arrian relate that, according to Aristobulus, Alexander pulled the linchpin from the pole to which the yoke was fastened, exposing the two ends of the cord and allowing him to untie the knot without having to cut through it. Some classical scholars regard this as more plausible than the popular account. End quote. So in real life, Alexander did not cut the knot, he hacked it. To hack our Gordian knot, it's important to observe that while our disastrous financial system, someone just noticed that if you could hold a McChicken sandwich without any asset depreciation, McChicken would have beaten the SPX over the last 5 years, itself needs comprehensive restructuring. It has a silver lining. So let me read the full sentence without the parenthetical. To hack our Gordian knot, it's important to observe that while our disastrous financial system itself needs comprehensive restructuring, it has a silver lining. The silver lining is that the Fed, an independent agency, LOL, which in fact is part of the Treasury branch, can buy any assets it wants, including Treasury bonds, gold, foreign currencies, Beanie Babies, fine art, wine, single malt scotch, and bonds or other obligations issued by a new agency set up to shut down the old administrative branch and start up a new executive branch run on genuinely executive principles. When he gets tired of the deep state, Trump can print money to build a new state, legally, according to the Constitution. Of course, he still needs to win politically. I've been consistently saying that when Yarvin is writing this stuff that seems critical, this is his way of maintaining plausible deniability while charting the path forward. Our vice president is a Yarvin appreciator. This administration is full of Yarvin appreciators. Michael Anton, director of policy planning at the State Department, is a Yarvin appreciator. So regardless of what you think about Yarvin himself, it's very clear that there are well-connected people who take him very seriously and listen. I guarantee you that there is I would say probably like half of the incoming personnel are aware of Yarvin and or subscribed to him and reading him whenever he publishes anything. Apparently a plane just crashed into a helicopter at Reagan International Airport. Well, that's very interesting. Shout out to Philo's Miscellany for the report here. I guess I am going to sign off and go find out what a Department of the Interior helicopter. Holy crap. All right, well, I guess you guys are going to have to tune in to the ASTROLABE tomorrow to hear more about that story, because I will bring it to you. The very last thing I want to touch on before we wrap is just a resource that may come in handy to you guys. Dale Stark here says, attention homeschool fams. My bride taught chemistry for several years and then put her curriculum online for free. Covers everything from advanced junior high through early college. Feel free to use and share. This is how we win. The website is chemwithamanda.com. That's chem like chemistry. chemwithamanda.com. And here is the link. Come on. Open up. So there's tutorial videos Man, everything just got real slow. Well, maybe it's not going to... I was going to just kind of walk through some of the details on this. There's tutorial videos, tutorial notes, problem set videos, problem set worksheets, lab manuals. There's a section for kids. So watch the tutorial videos, work problems, and ask questions. Who's this website for? This website is for anyone who is interested in learning or reviewing introductory general, organic, or biological chemistry topics. This includes high school and college chemistry students as well as independent learners. The subject matter covers topics from any high school chemistry course, any introductory general chemistry course, and now it loads. Any introductory general, organic, and biological chemistry course, also known as allied health chemistry. So hopefully this will be useful to some of you homeschoolers out there. We've got, let's see, junior high. So Eastwood's 4 now. I'd imagine that he's going to be going through this stuff in 3 or 4 years probably. So maybe it's worth bookmarking for us. Those of you who have older children, or if you're just interested yourself, go check them out. chemwithamanda.com, CHEM with Amanda.com. And I just love this sort of thing. Anybody who's doing something like this, I'm going to signal boost it. This is how we win. Reminder, kingpill.substack.com for all of these links, all the links that I've gone through. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're at 118 likes. That tells me we can get to 125 before I wrap. Mr. Miranchuk is getting ready to goat stream. I'm going to see if he's set up the stream already and if I can plug the redirect in here. And if I can, then you guys won't even need to navigate away. It'll automatically load. But it looks like he has either not created it yet or it's just not showing up. So you guys are going to have to do it old school style. You're just going to have to go over to Miranchuk now. Go enjoy the goat stream. And I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Astrolabe. Appreciate all of the support, the super chats, all of your guys' generosity. Thank you for showing up every day for the Astrolabe. And I now give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next President of the United States, enough was enough. And I said,